had 3 minutes of suspense. My goodness, my fat fingers were having difficulty here, but enjoy the intro video with the voiceover. Viva Fry, Thursday, August 15, 2024.
To my queridos, amigos, Latinos, you need to vote for Trump. Kamala Harris is no bueno. Kamala is mucho pendejo, even more pendejo than Joe Biden. Pero señor Trump, how can Kamala be more pendejo than Joe Biden? Well, she is mucho pendejo, no bueno. If you want to earn dinero, you need to el voto for el president Trump. Con Trump, you will earn mucho dinero. So make sure you el voto Trump in 2024. Let's make El America great again. Muchos gracias, amigos. To my queridos, amigos, Latinos, you need to vote for Trump.
Let me refresh this just so I can get the tweet of the person who tweeted this. Il Donaldo Trumpo. I don't know how things work. Like when he says, like, who did this? Do they not know who did this? Who did this? This is the greatest thing ever. And I don't know what part of it is fake. I don't know how things are working anymore. Is it a real video of Donald Trump? For those who are listening on podcast, it's a video of what appears to be an authentic Donald Trump with a superimposed sombrero and a really weird looking mustache. And then there's la inflación ha afectado tanto a la población hispana, pero hero prejuiciados a todos. Let's just play this one more time.
To my queridos, amigos, Latinos, you need to vote for Trump. Kamala Harris is no bueno. Kamala is mucho pendejo, even more pendejo than Joe Biden. Pero señor Trump.
I don't speak Spanish, but I know that I've seen movies. I think pendejo means crazy, right? Pendejo meaning. Believe it means crazy. Pendejo is a Spanish word that can be used as an adjective, multiple meanings. Derogatory used as someone who's foolish, stupid, or incompetent. A pendejo. Well, there we have it. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Thursday, August 15th, 2024. We are now August, September, October, November. We are under 90 days from the most... So the consensus is 100% an AI video and voice. It's fantastic. And I don't know if I'm allowed sharing it without getting canceled, but FTW, we're living dangerously today. Let me share that link with everybody who wants to go share that tweet, because comedy is great. Comedy is the ultimate cleanser of palates. Okay, now I hear my voice somewhere in the back. Oh, this is going to be annoying. Oh, here it is. Got it. Okay. I gave everybody the link, so now you can go watch that. Good afternoon, everybody. How goes the battle? It's like you wake up in the morning and you say, is there going to be something to talk about? And then by the time lunchtime comes around, you're like, which stories do we put on blast today? Yesterday was a very busy day. If somebody who's watching, and I said I would call them in between shooting The Unusual Suspects at Valuetainment with the Patrick Bet-David crew, Vinny Oshana, and in between that and doing Alex Jones on InfoWars, I had exactly 1 minute of spare time between the ending of one shoot and the beginning of the live. So, miscusi, but yesterday was a busy day. If you didn't watch it, Unusual Suspects is it's a Valuetainment show, and I make regular appearances there because I love everybody involved in that show. They cover news. It's like it allows me to do my homework for the next day of my live streams. Then I was on with Alex Jones. I came on at 1 o'clock, but because 12:30 to 2-ish is my new slot daily on the Rumbleverse, on the interwebs, I broadcast InfoWars, and then I came on. We talked about where we see things going, and it was a fun time. Need to make sure that we are live across all platforms, which we are, because we're live on Rumble, we are live on YouTube, and we are live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We're also live on Twitter. And for those of you who are new to the channel, the way it works, we start on all 4 platforms, and then sometimes we won't end on YouTube, but typically we end on YouTube, end on Twitter, and go over to Rumble. Vote with our eyes, vote with our feet, vote with our dollars, and support a platform that supports free speech. And then we wrap it up and we go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party, where we have some Q&A and a little intimate, special, exclusive time with our massively, wildly above average locals community. In the news today, people, fake news, copycat news, commie news, and a story that you hear it and you're like, no, it cannot be true. That a Secret Service agent on the day of the shooting left her post to go breastfeed a child. We'll get there. We're going to get there in a bit. But the big news of the day, or at least the big news of the day yesterday, was an alleged leak of RFK allegedly attempting to contact the Harris campaign in order to try to unify with, be absorbed in, have a place in, and, try to bridge that divide between the political party that arguably, but not arguably, assassinated his uncle, assassinated his father, and would like to have their way with him himself. The story broke and everyone's like, I always knew that RFK was a Democrat mole and he's in there to take Trump votes away. Story never made any sense. Barnes talked about it last night during the Bourbon with Barnes on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I had to double check with one of my sources, not Barnes. I've got sources, people. As you go and you meet people and you know people who know people. I got on the phone. I just had to bounce the story off somebody who knows better. Is it remotely plausible? And I don't think the story was ever remotely plausible. It's just yet another indication of a Kamala Harris campaign, which is both cackling, commie, copycat. And I put all of them, and I'm spelling them with the C's, people, because the other joke really needs to be contextually appropriate in order to be made. Pendejo means a bad thing. The Italians say it a lot. Putz, I think that's how you spell it. Well, if it's supposed to be putz like a schmuck in Jewish or Yiddish, it's got to be P-U-T-Z, if I say it the Canadian way. So we're going to talk about that. Kamala Harris proposing straight up commie food pricing caps, because we're going to get into all of it. The bottom line, cackling Kamala Harris is a copycat, a commie, and a cackler. Let's start with the cackle, because it's like everybody has to pay attention to this, and I think everybody is. We've talked about this, the difference between the Kamala campaign and the Trump campaign. The difference between the three candidates. You can fault RFK all you want for what you believe his position to be on Second Amendment, on abortion stuff. Fine. The one thing you cannot fault RFK for, and that everybody should learn from, and I think Trump has or didn't necessarily need to learn this from RFK because he was good at it himself, long format, authentic discourse. RFK, for good or for bad, his foibles and whatever, for the last while has been doing tons of long format podcasts, interviews, etc., giving people a chance to get to know him, because you can't fake who you are for a 3-hour podcast. You might be able to get by 20 minutes, maybe. 3-minute thing, for sure. Pre-recorded, manufactured, scripted rubbish, it's easy, especially when you don't even know if they're in front of a crowd or not. RFK's been doing podcasts. Donald Trump just broke the internet with his Elon Musk Twitter space on Monday night, over 1 million live concurrent viewers. Kamala Harris is in hiding. But she's not in hiding from stealing. So you got let me pull this up here. She's trying to be charming, and the only way that she can be charming is by not revealing her face to the world. Is this the one here? Here we go. It's look at this. Bros for Kamala, by the way. I almost hate not putting people on blast, but giving them undue airtime, amplification. Bros for Kamala. Can I see the profile? Oh, I can't see it. Bros for Kamala. I'll get it afterwards. All right, what do they have to say? Oh, get out of here. Yeah. Bros for Kamala post this clip. Listen to what they say, though. By now, the story is already familiar. Yep. It's unburdened by what has been and shall be repeated evermore. By now, the story is already familiar. Governor Tim Walz hang up when he answered the phone from unknown caller, not knowing. Dude, is this? I have to go check if this is an actual account. Governor Tim Walz hang up when he answered the phone from unknown caller, not knowing it was VP Harris. Check out this endearing conversation of them together in this video. I'm going to go open this in a separate window and see if it's not AI, but listen to this endearing, manufactured, phony as saccharine, high production, scripted rubbish. And pay attention to the cackle.
I was hoping
you,
maybe
Tim.
we wouldn't have to.
I called you, Tim.
Yes.
I called
You
you,
didn't
Tim.
answer, Tim.
I know.
What happened?
The most important call of my life. It popped up, and we didn't recognize the caller ID, and it went to voicemail.
Hi, this is Jim. I'm not able to answer.
There you go. want to talk to you.
It is an amazing privilege. I'm excited. I just want to be part of the excitement that you're generating.
Well, we're
So,
doing it together, buddy.
It's fine.
We're doing it together.
Someone's going to clip that last part out of context and make it make sense. We're doing it together, buddy. You would think that leaving a voicemail to a smooth-brained idiot, it's the funniest thing on earth. Where was it? It's like, oh my goodness, I got a voicemail.
There you go.
voicemail.
Hi, this is Jim. I'm not able to answer.
There you go.
Oh my God. Remember that time, Tim? When I got your voicemail, it was the funniest thing ever. It was better than Dumb and Dumber, better than Happy Gilmore. It was better than Joe Rogan's Netflix special, better than Ty Fisher. I got it. It's, oh my God, it's just so manufactured and so bloody phony. But hold on, now that I go back to that, what I believe now to be an AI account, the Bros for Kamala, since 2016, progressive, intersectional, feminist, LGBTQ plus, political adversary, bro. What the hell does this? I mean, okay, whatever. So they were made in 2016. Progressive, so probably just a rebranded old Hillary account. She's an empty vessel. Is it an empty vessel or an empty vassal? She's a hollow barrel, and they tend to make the most noise. There's a couple of good expressions. An empty barrel makes the most noise. And people are going to say, Viva, you scream a lot. You're the emptiest of the barrels. Well, I think I say things of substance when I make noise, when my vibrations from my mouth enter the interverse. But she's an idiot, and she's trying to be personable. She's trying to be relatable. She's trying to be cutesy. Like, she's gotten through life doing that. And I don't mean to sound demeaning or degrading. She's unskilled. She's a DEI, didn't earn it. And she got through life quite clearly by using things other than whatever exists of a brain, which isn't very much. But let's just laugh like a bunch of buffoons because it's really funny. Hey, you missed the call and I got a voicemail. Oh my goodness, what is this technology? And you know what the other biggest problem about it? It's not that just she's a cackler. She's a freaking copycat. And this is how you know she's a dumb. I say like a dumb criminal. I'll put criminal in quotes because I don't mean a criminal, but like a political criminal. If you're going to be a smart political criminal, don't do stupid things that the internet will sniff out in a heartbeat. She's a dumb political criminal because Copycat Kamala, this is not the right one. Copycat Kamala is literally stealing something that JD shared by way of a story. Listen to this. Like, leave it to the internet. They will find out if you lie. This is like, some people lie because they fear God, and that's a very praiseworthy reason not to lie. Respect a higher order, and it will make you a better person here. Other people can be afraid to lie just because you have to assume you're not going to be able to get away with it. And in a way, I guess that's sort of like fearing a God. If you lie on this earth and you get away with it, well, you'll never get away with it with God, is the belief. And it's a very, I like it. I happen to think you'll never get away with it on earth. And so there's absolutely no point in lying, especially on the biggest scales of the humanity, the internet. So she comes out with her stupid cackle. Hey, I left you a voicemail. You didn't pick up. Hey, Tim, why didn't you pick up? Yeah.
Make sure you don't miss.
Listen to JD. Oh, yeah, and the left, AOC. You don't like the way he's sitting? Tough balls.
Make sure you don't miss a call because a really important call's coming. So I'm like, oh shit, right? Either good call or bad call, but it's an important call. And about an hour later, I get another message from the same person who says, hey, you just missed a really important call. So hey, I'm like, oh no. So I call Trump and I'm like, hey, sir, what's going on? He's like, JD, you missed a very important phone call.
You missed.
I was
Called you,
hoping maybe
Tim.
we wouldn't have to.
I called you, Tim.
Yes,
You didn't answer, Tim.
I know.
What
The
happened?
most important
I was
call of
taking
my
a dump,
life.
Kamala. I didn't hear the phone ring. What happened? You didn't answer the.
It popped up and we didn't recognize the caller ID, and it went to voicemail.
Hi, this is Jim.
So it's a very interesting thing also, just in terms of what he said. We didn't recognize the caller ID, which presumably means they hadn't been in that, tight of contact before. And if one wants to read into that and think that was an admission of something, she might have changed her vote, her decision last minute. And she actually did have Josh Shapiro, but something happened such last minute that Tim Walz didn't even have her number saved in his phone to know that he was getting a call from the VP and or her team. But anyhow, the bottom line, I won't belabor the point. She's a cackling idiot who can't come up with ideas of her own, so she has to steal Trump's policies on taxing, no tax on tips. She's got to steal anecdotes from JD Vance because she can't think on her own. And like, hey, if it's working for the Republicans, maybe I'm just going to go borrow that. And it doesn't even stop there. She's also seeming to borrow leak tactics or alleged leaks in order to build up her own brand. Oh, before we even get too far into the show, and I'm trying to not fix up, I'm trying to better myself in terms of podcasting format, snipping clips afterwards. I need to break up segments so that I can easily separate them and publish them afterwards. I just got distracted here. Hold on one second. Who said this? Let me bring this up here because I am a man who takes critique. In what way? I need to know this. Viva may indeed be turning into Rosie. The dream was a warning. In terms of the way I look or in terms of becoming crazy? I've always been crazy, if anybody doesn't actually know that. So bottom line, by the way, I'll break up the segments. You know, it's a good way to break up a segment with our sponsors, people. Tax Network USA, for those of you who want to, who have to deal with the government reaching its hand into your back pocket and taking out more than they deserve to be taken out. My father always said growing up, the government is your involuntary business partner in all things. Because if they're going to take money out of your back pocket by way of taxes, you should make them partners in your losses, in your profits, et cetera, et cetera. Bottom line, do you owe back taxes? Pandemic relief is now over, along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers. The IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unified tax returns or balances owed. Don't waive your rights and speak with them on your own. They are not your friends. Don't talk to the cops on your own for no better reason. And don't talk to the tax agents on your own for no better reason. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help you, whether it's business or personal taxes. Even if you have the means to pay or you are on a fixed income, they can help finally resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call 1-800-245-6000 for a private free consultation or visit tnusa.com/Viva. TNUSA, Tango November USA, like the United States of America. tnusa.com/Viva. 1-800-245-6000. Call now. Link is in the description. Oh. So not only does she steal policy, no tax on tips, and makes it her own, and her idiot smooth brain followers will think it was her creative idea. Not only does she steal anecdotes, going with the, you didn't pick up the call. It worked so well when JD Vance did a podcast, and now I should make the story my own. Laughy, laughy, ha. No audience, no nothing, scripted, highly edited, put it out there. She's running, it's not an AI generated campaign. It's an AstroTurf artificial campaign, period. Let her do 2 hours with Elon Musk in a space. She's also stealing the tactics that Trump, maybe either Team Trump or Team Kennedy, employed. You all remember, like, it was the day, 2 days after the failed assassination attempt, where whether or not the world realizes it, we all saw an act of God, an act of divine intervention, which spared cataclysmic disaster at a global level. And that is not to undermine the seriousness of Corey Comparator, who was murdered, and the 2 other gentlemen whose names escape me at the time, who were grievously injured. Some people say, like, how an act of God, why didn't God save Corey? And I don't know that I believe in this stuff, but I can steel man the argument is at some point you can't avoid the consequences of all evil, period. In as much as if you believe in a God, God bestowed free agency on humans, and if it were controlled and there were no bad, then there would be no free will regardless. And so in as much as you can't prevent the consequences of all acts of evil, there can certainly be miracles, gusts of wind, the breath of God that spare the world what would have otherwise been cataclysmic disaster. We may not be out of the woods yet because Lord knows what the future holds. We averted cataclysmic disaster that day because Trump turned his head, a gust of wind blew that bullet a centimeter in the right direction. After that event, there was a leaked video that apparently it was the son of RFK Jr., or at least someone on the campaign, I think it was the son, but I don't want to be too categorical on that because I might be wrong, who leaked this conversation that RFK was having on speakerphone with Donald Trump, or on the phone. And RFK subsequently apologized for it. I could have brought it up. Let me see if I can bring it up here. RFK subsequently apologized for it, and said it was poor judgment. I shouldn't have put this phone call up. RFK Trump call. Said I shouldn't have put the video up. Here it is, right here. That's easy enough to find. Okay. This is the video, just in case anybody's forgotten it, because the news cycle moves so bloody fast, we almost forget what happened yesterday.
I agree with you, man. Something's wrong with that whole system.
Hold on, we can't see it now. I don't know why that happened. Okay, I'll just leave it here small. So here.
I agree with you, man. Something's wrong with that whole system. Yeah, and it's the doctors you find. Remember I said,
Now he's talking about jibby jabs.
Small doses. When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that is like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse, not a 10-pound or 20-pound baby. It looks like you should be giving a horse this. And do you ever see the size of it, right? It's just massive. And then you see the baby all of a sudden starting to change radically. I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway, I would love you to do so. And I think it would be so good for you. And
so now I think everybody can hear. He's talking about the jibby jab. Thinks he's already said publicly.
And he's interesting. It was very nice, actually. He called
talking about having talked to Joe Biden after the assassination.
How did you choose to move to the right?
How did you choose to move to the right? Okay, fine. That's the call. We've all heard that. I'll take it back out of the screen now. I love it also. What a bizarre question for Joe Biden to ask after an assassination attempt. How to assume that Trump is telling the truth? It's possible. Some of you might think he never spoke with Biden. Biden didn't say it that way. Assume Biden said to Trump, how did you choose to move your head to the right? What a bizarre way of phrasing the question. Because to say, how did you choose to move your head to the right, implies that there was some knowledge or specific purpose for turning his head to the right. As it turned out, he was just going to look back up at this graph about immigration in America. But it's a very, very bizarre, assuming Biden asked it that way, I read that question as being, why the hell did you turn your head to the right? Okay, so bottom line, that video was leaked. It's not clear if it was leaked by the RFK campaign. RFK came out and apologized for it afterwards. Some people hypothesize that it might have been sort of like a let it leak because it makes both of us look good. It makes it look like there's some sort of coalition between RFK Jr. and Trump. They've got something in common, their perspective on the jibby jabs or vaccines in general. They've got something in common now, having had experience with assassinations and attempted assassinations. And it actually sort of, when it was leaked, the left-wing media was trying to say that it made Trump look bad. Here's Trump with his anti-vaccine stance again, and he's saying these stupid things. He said those things publicly before, and a lot of people, especially people on Team Trump or on the Trump side of things, are eager for Trump to take a position that is sort of skeptical of the jibby jab. I think a lot of people have the biggest criticism against Trump is that he's taking a little too much pride in Operation Warp Speed and that COVID shot that people don't think was safe, effective, worked at all. And they think it was an abject failure that caused more harm than good. And they would love him to stop taking credit for it. So when he comes out with this and starts getting skeptical yet again on the jibby jab, well, that might invigorate his base and allow them to undo some of what they think to be fault about his position on the jab. Okay, it worked well for Trump. And now it looks like Kamala Harris might have been stealing that. Let's leak some story, some fabricated nonsense story about RFK coming to us in order to talk about a coalition here. And it's being leaked out of the Washington Post, so it's got to be true. And I'm going through archives, so I don't actually give the Washington Post the traffic that they don't deserve for being purveyors of disinformation and misinformation. This is the news that broke yesterday and it pissed a lot of people off, but people are reactionary and they don't take a step back to say, first of all, let me just wait for this to be confirmed or not. Spoiler alert, RFK came out with a message today saying pretty categoric that this is not true. Washington Post, RFK Jr. tried to meet with Kamala Harris to discuss cabinet job. Can you imagine that? This is the guy, RFK Jr., who the Democrats are spending tens of millions of dollars to keep off the ballot everywhere they can, who Biden is passively trying to fabricate a situation in which RFK Jr. is exposed to harm by denying him Secret Service right up until the day after Trump was survived an assassination attempt. Does anybody in their right mind think that RFK, who had a father killed by the deep state, an uncle killed by the deep state, a Biden trying to facilitate his killing by whomever, is going to go and ask for a cabinet position in a Kamala Harris administration? You've got to be an idiot to even reflexively get angry at that. Now, I say an idiot with respect. Harris has rebuffed the offer of an endorsement, while Kennedy also has had a conversation with Republican nominee Donald Trump. But you see how they do it, by the way? Mix reality with fiction. The second part of this, we all know happened. And so as you read the second part, it almost makes you want to believe the first part, which probably never happened. Harris has rebuffed the offer of an endorsement, while Kennedy has also commented, oh, yeah, no, what does that mean, though? Does that mean that he asked her to endorse him or vice versa? Independent presidential candidate RFK sought a meeting last week with Democratic nominee Kamala Harris to discuss the possibility of serving in her administration, perhaps as cabinet secretary, if he throws his support behind her campaign and she wins, according to Kennedy campaign officials. Which ones? Harris and her advisors have not responded with an offer to meet or shown interest in the proposal, say people familiar with the conversations. Hold on. So I don't understand something. It just went from the Kennedy campaign officials is one source and others are saying she didn't respond. Okay. The Kennedy outreach made through intermediaries? I mean, this is so stupid. It doesn't make any sense at all. Followed a meeting in Milwaukee last month between Kennedy and Republican nominee Donald Trump to discuss a similar policy role. You see how they do this? You just understand what they're doing. The Kamala camp looked at this and said, that kind of looked like it worked out well for both RFK Jr. and Trump when that leaked phone call was leaked. And when that came out, and my initial response, and it's still there on the internet because it's there, I was like, I don't understand something. Who is this supposed to make look bad? I mean, I said, other than RFK Jr.'s judgment in apparently publishing without the authorization of the person that he was on the call with, that's bad. It shows a little bit of, juvenile judgment, which is why I'm more inclined to believe it was the kid that did it than RFK. Forget that. Other than the leak, the substance of that call made neither of them look bad. It made both of them look good, and it especially made Trump look good. And they're trying to do the same thing. The only difference is they probably didn't even have any sort of conversation to substantiate this fake story. And so it's just got to be, he called her and we said no, and that's it. The independent candidate and namesake for the most famous American political dynasty is exploring multiple options for his presidential effort, which has seen a decline in national polling since Joe Biden dropped out of the race. Manufactured reality, people. His campaign has produced polling, which it has tried to share with Democrats, that it claims shows both Harris and Trump would get a boost in their public support across 31 states if either candidate announced publicly that Kennedy would have a cabinet role in their administration. I mean, the amazing thing is they're making RFK Jr. look like a political whore. Like RFK is saying, like, hey, one of you is going to get a bump if you take me. So who wants to offer me the best position? Political whore. The funny thing is, Trump would never make such a statement. The only person who thinks that this guy would act like a political whore, ironically enough, is the actual political whore in this. And it's an amazing way that she thinks Kennedy would think this way. That Kennedy's just going around saying, hey guys, one of you is going to benefit if you bring me on, so bring me on. I'm just here for you guys to use me. You know who thinks like that? Someone who thinks that they are only there to be used for political purposes. At the moment, Kennedy says he's continuing his campaign, yada yada, expects to defeat both of them. Kennedy was never dropping out to endorse. I mean, whether or not there was some discussion that maybe he'll be incorporated into a Trump campaign. I don't know, as head of a prosecution team to go after Fauci and Pfizer. Maybe that could incite RFK to join a Trump campaign. That would be so flipping glorious. By the way. Join the Trump campaign and give him a head of cabinet, whatever it would be, prosecute Fauci. Or, sorry, that would be presupposing conclusions. Investigate Fauci. Investigate Pfizer. Pick up that Key Tam lawsuit that Robert Barnes has been representing Brooke Jackson in for fraud against the American people committed by Pfizer. You guys understand that? Like, everybody who's not new to the channel, you'll know that Robert Barnes, my partner in crime, Sunday night show, Viva and Barnes Law for the People extravaganza, best show on earth. Best show on Sunday. Best show on Sunday. He's been representing Brooke Jackson, who is a Pfizer whistleblower who blew the whistle on Pfizer and their sham trials in the context of the Operation Warp Speed development of the COVID Pfizer jibby jab. She came out and said their trials were rubbish. Their data was rubbish. I mean, I don't want to say the word falsified because that might be a little strong, but rubbish. You can achieve whatever results you want when you drop whatever results you don't want. She came out, blew the whistle on Pfizer. She sued Pfizer, qui tam, basically for fraud against the people. Pfizer was supposed to produce a vaccine that prevented transmission, that was safe and effective, and the argument is that they produced none of that. The state chose not to get involved. The federal government chose not to get involved until I think it's like a year and a half later, 2 years later. They were given the opportunity to take over the case and pursue this case against Pfizer. They chose not to. And then they intervened in the case to try to have it dismissed and have it dismissed. So the federal government, who spent, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, just, given to Pfizer, their stock really went up a bit at some point in time when they had the money cow just printing cash and giving it to them. The government comes in and says, now we're going to take over your claim of fraud against the American people and kill your case. Okay. If they were to put RFK Jr. on some form of a committee to investigate that and to revive that qui tam lawsuit and go after Pfizer, he might think about joining a Trump candidate, a Trump administration, a Trump campaign. Now, where was I? That's right. Stealing the idea of trying to build her up by saying Kennedy came up to me too, because it looked like it worked well with Trump when that leaked phone call came out. Well, RFK came out yesterday, or was it yesterday or today? August 15th. It was this morning, 7:59 a.m. He's up early, people, exercising, being healthy. He came out to dispel, I think, any confusion that might be lingering. RFK Jr. at Robert Kennedy Jr. VP Harris's Democrat. By the way, if it was not clear the animosity that RFK has for the Democrats, this should eliminate any doubt. If it's not obvious that the Democrats have overt animosity for RFK, you need to open your eyes. They quite literally, through Biden and his corrupt criminal regime, wanted to facilitate a situation where what happened to Trump should happen to RFK Jr. by denying this guy Secret Service protection. Okay, let's see what Kennedy has to say about Harris. VP Harris's Democratic Party would be unrecognizable to my father and uncle, and I cannot reconcile it with my values. The Democratic Party of RFK and JFK was the party of civil liberties and free speech. I'm just going to read. I'm not even going to add my commentary. VP Harris's is the party of censorship, lockdowns, and medical coercion. Kennedy Democrats were anti-war. Kamala's is riddled with neocon warmongers. The RFK, JFK Dems were allies of Main Street, cops, firefighters, and working people. VP Harris's is the party of big tech, big pharma, and Wall Street. My dad and uncle's party was the champion of voting rights and fair elections. VP Harris's is the party of lawfare, disenfranchisement, and the coronation of its candidates by corporate donors and party elites. I've used our nation's courts to prosecute corporations who hurt Black Americans. VP Harris used our nation's courts to mercilessly prosecute Black Americans and exploit them for labor. My father and uncle prided themselves on their skills at debate and their ability to articulate a coherent vision for our country. VP Harris is scared to debate and can't survive an unscripted interview. Instead of outlining a vision, she relies on middle school tactics, memes, forged headlines, infantile slogans, joy, and name-calling. Republicans are weird. Here, he's even defending Republicans, people. I spent years battling government corruption and lies. VP Harris spent years gaslighting Americans and about the health of our commander-in-chief. I have no plans to endorse Kamala Harris for president. I do have a plan to defeat her. Snap, crackle, and pop, people. So, I don't think he called her up and offered to stop running to join her shitty, corrupt, megalomaniac, narcissistic, utterly incompetent regime. I feel a little better. Does anybody else feel better? Speaking of feeling better and, waking up in the morning, not angry, which gets harder and harder to do as the world goes crazier and crazier. Wake up in the morning. You want to support a company that supports free speech, a partner of Rumble that makes freaking delicious coffee. It's a great way to start every day. 1775 Coffee. If you go to 1775coffee.com/Viva, you will find their product, and it's an amazing one. What do presidential candidate Kamala Harris or even former President Barack Hussein Obama have in common with our Rumble 1775 coffee? Absolutely nothing at all, because we don't lie about our origin. We tell you exactly where our beans come from and why they are the best and richest tasting coffee beans in the world. At the 1775 Coffee Company, we cut straight to the point. Stop supporting woke liberal coffee from the corporations that hate you and make you sick. Rumble's very own 1775 not only tastes amazing, but also supports free speech and all of the creators on Rumble. Go to 1775coffee.com/Viva. Get 15% off your order, fight the woke mob, and brew a rebellion. Beautiful. It is delicious coffee, by the way. And then the thing about like a product like a good coffee bean from a good company that's partnered with a free speech platform. By the way, Chris Pavlovsky is out there waging war. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about this today, but I guess I will now. I was going to make that meme, Chris Pavlovsky woke up this morning and chose war, but I don't want anyone like misinterpreting that and thinking it's criticism, or I don't want anyone misinterpreting that and thinking it's literal, because that's what lying lefty Democrat statist buffoons do. But Pavlovsky has gone, Andrew Breitbart war. And the first thing is, when a company doesn't want to advertise on your platform or wants to boycott it because of right-leaning culture, well, they can go straight F themselves. And what do you do about, what do you do when you have a platform? Chris explained this when I interviewed him. You have a platform with an audience that is over-indexed in coffee. And I asked Chris, what does that mean? He says, well, we have more coffee drinkers, statistically, than your same aggregate pool of YouTube watchers. We have greater demand for the product, and this anti-American, anti-working class, anti-right-wing culture, Dunkin' Donuts, says we don't want to advertise on your platform because of the right-leaning culture. Well, go F yourselves is the one thing, and then we need to fill the hole in that market, so we're going to go make our own coffee 1775. And it's flipping delicious, and everybody should go support the company. Let them know that we are voting with our feet, our dollar, and our eyeballs, and support 1775. But let me bring up the tweets from yesterday. I wasn't going to. Why is my internet so bloody slow? I wasn't going to, but I guess I will now, because it's quite fitting. I don't know how to do a cat turd for any foibles or any criticism anybody has against cat turd. The dude is a genius at making hashtags, or you're making things trend. So listen, I'll bring it up here because we got to see the whole thing. Dunkin' Donuts has a great ad. Here, look at this. It's hilarious too. Which one of you sent this to us? Which one of you sent us this? And it's looks like a stupid alleged. It's supposed to look like a stupid ransom note. Bring back pumpkin, or else. I don't know who in their right mind says that. To which Chris says, "Not me. I threw your coffee out for discriminating against half of America." And then I tried to go on. Chris is now, okay, you might be getting a little bit of that bad boy influence from Elon Musk. Chris has yet to start swearing. When Chris puts out a meme of Tropic Thunder telling the European Union to take a step back and literally F-U-C-K their own face, hilarious, by the way, fantastic. I had to send that one. Oh no, sorry, one of my brothers sent that one to me. Hilarious. Chris is getting not edgier because he's still a polite, good Canadian, but he's getting a little edgier and telling Dunkin' Donuts to go screw yourselves. You want to boycott half of America because of right-leaning culture in a platform and an environment that is over-indexed for your very product, and you claim to be for working class Americans, middle America, the average American, elite snobbery. You should go advertise wherever Starbucks advertises. So that's a long-winded answer to 1775coffee.com. Let me bring this one up here. Viva. Some pushback from other sources regarding RFK. Let me see this here. Okay, I'll go check that out afterwards. Let me see if I can actually copy this and bring it up. See, I'm not sure what the pushback means, but let's see if we can do this in real time. RFK Jr. has been directly very critical of Harris. That's why Harris Waltz people don't want RFK Jr. sniffing around their camps. My gut sense is that RFK Jr. is desperate to make something happen after the failure of his Trump gambit. Okay. I'll read that. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but not all opinions are created equal. From our Viva, Barnes Law, Locals.com community, Ganthet As much as I despise the lunatics on the left, Barnes said it himself a few weeks ago. You have to take ideas from the other side that appeal to those in the middle. Best way, in my opinion, to, quote, combat it, end quote, is to condemn them for stealing ideas, but applaud them for adopting conservative views in a way that hurts them. Well, first of all, I totally agree with that, which is why I said, like, it's great. I jokingly retweeted Kamala's no tax on tips, and I said, oh my goodness, Kamala just endorsed Donald Trump. It's amazing. I knew she'd come around to it. It's a good thing that I can't bring up this meme here. There seems to be a meme of, if I were Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, that's what you'd be looking at right now. I guess you have to go to our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community to see the meme. But yeah, it's probably a good thing for my own self-preservation that I don't bring up that graphic. But it's a meme, people, and it's funny. Now, speaking of which, we're going to head on over to Rumble now for the rest of the show. And then we're going to go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com afterwards for the after party. Encryptus says, Viva Fry, let's build new products and partner with Rumble to help create the parallel economy. Encryptus, I'm getting back to you on something today. Don't worry about it. Okay, now, let me just see one thing here. I want to make sure that I haven't lost or missed anything over in Rumble. And I haven't. And good, let's do it. We're going to end on YouTube and Twitter. Come on over to Rumble, Viva Fry, or vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And I will bring this here and give this to you now. Link. That's to Locals, people. And the link to Rumble is in the pinned comment in YouTube. That's it. Voting with our feet. Voting with our dollars. Let's go. Rumble, Locals, here we come. Boom. Oh, now what are we moving on to now? Because I don't think we're done with Kamala stealing, Kamala cackling. Oh, yes. Well, now we're going to deal with Commie Kamala. So we did Copycat Kamala. We did Cackling Kamala. And now we're going to do Commie Kamala. Listen to this. I believe this is it here. There we go. If you haven't heard the news, people, and if anybody's ever wondered how millions and millions of people starve to death under communism, you need not ever ask that question again. When COVID hit and they started, interrupting supply chains, they started implementing policy that was going to be so wildly more destructive than COVID itself. And they were admitting it at the time. I don't remember if anybody remembers. You literally had Bill Gates saying that because of our, interruption of supply chains, as a result of COVID response, 300 million people might starve to death. Let me see if I can find this. Bill Gates, 300 million starve, COVID supply chain. Let me just see if I can't find this. We're going to have a little fun detour here. Stop here for 1 second. There's a fact check on whether or not Bill Gates, what did he say here? At least 3 billion people need to die. No, that's not what we want to, that's not it. No. It was the Great Starvation. Here we go. Bill Gates, COVID risks have reduced, but another pandemic. What is it here? Well, we'll have to go with Middle East Monitor. The Great Starvation is coming and the world must prepare for it. While the world endured global supply chain issues and delays for over 2 years throughout the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, markets suffered, economies buckled, and there were real fears that it would mean potential shortages of essentials, even across the globe. Let me just see. We want Bill here. Bill Gates. As billionaire and astrophysics, no. Billions. Here we go. The theories on the contributions to the global food crisis, or at least in North America, sometimes go even deeper, though with some referring to the fact that much of the farmland in the U.S. has been bought up by Bill Gates, who is the biggest owner of the farmland. Okay, so that's not the article. Doesn't matter. You can look it up. Bill Gates, there's a risk of mass starvation as a result of interrupted supply chains and food shortages as a result of our response to the COVID pandemic. So you want to understand how millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people can die under communism, under Soviet regimes, under socialism, because of famine. You need look no further than today and the modern era. Philip Mélenchon-Wegman says Harris to propose, quote, federal ban on corporate price gouging, end quote, on groceries and, quote, impose stiff penalties in the food industry, end quote, campaign announces. Because the problem is inflation. I mean, everybody knows that that's a problem. There's some idiots on Twitter who are still pretending that inflation is not a problem. I forget who it was yesterday. It doesn't really matter, but some dude gets out there and says, when Cat Turd came out and said, my groceries have doubled in the last, since 2020. And this guy comes out and says, if your groceries have doubled since 2020, if you believe that, you're an idiot. And then you realize that if you deny anything like that, you're an idiot. Here, check this out. We'll put the guy on blast today. Good ideas deserve sunlight, and stupidity deserves sunlight. Cat Turd writes, nice fake numbers, but I live in the real world. My grocery and pet food bills have doubled under Biden, and gas prices have more than doubled. As in response to a New York Post article, which talks about how inflation is coming down. To which James Surujic, let me see who he is. Oh, I didn't realize you could do that. Author of The Wisdom of Crowds, contributing writer to The Fast Company and The Atlantic. Well, there you have it. Editor at Yale. Not Yale. Review, I wrote the financial page for the New York. All right, good for you. If you think grocery bills have doubled in the last 4 years, you do not live in the real world. If you do not understand that they've doubled in the last 4 years, you do not live in the real world. And just by way of example, because there's really not much more of an easy object or metric to use to measure inflation. Eggs. There's very little. I mean, I guess you could get organic eggs and they'll cost more and whatever. But eggs are pretty much the staple. Eggs, red meat, chicken. The only problem is when they go with inflation, the ingredients they put in the basket to measure inflation, they can tinker with those. So where the basket can include meat one year, they can make it include chicken the next year to reduce inflation by reducing the cost of the items that you had put in the basket in prior years to measure inflation. Eggs are a little bit tough to do that with. And egg prices have doubled in the last 4 years. I mean, literally, period. I buy groceries. We have 3 kids, 2 dogs. It's doubled. It's inflation. Why is it inflation? That's up for argument. You could blame it on the stimulus package passed during the pandemic for sure, and that certainly contributed to it. But remember, it's when the explanations themselves are mutually incompatible that somebody's lying. Oh, no. The inflation it's Trump's fault. It just takes a few years to come into effect, right? Because if you print trillions of dollars in 2020, you don't see automatic inflation. It takes 2, 3, 4 years to trickle into the market. That's why there was a delay, and the inflation only occurred in 2022, 2023, when Putin invaded Ukraine. And then at which point the explanation was then no longer it was Trump's stimulus inflation. It was quite literally, and don't take my word for it, it was Putin. This is April 15, 2022. Biden's claim that 70% of inflation jump. Biden's claim that 70. This is from the Washington Post as well, so if it's going to be counter their narrative, it's got to be more accurate than they want to admit. Biden's claim that 70% of inflation jump is due to Putin's price hike. Does everyone remember that? They give it such cute names. What people don't know is that 70% of the increase in inflation was the consequence of Putin's price hike because of the impact on oil prices. 70%. I could do it like Joe. Well, people don't know. And I'm not joking. I really mean it. 70% of the increase in inflation was the consequence of Putin's price hike because of the impact of oil. 70%. Really mean it. No joke. Well, at least Biden is displaying some understanding of the basic metric of why Trump is now saying drill, baby, drill, because if you want to bring down inflation, oil prices tend to be the underlying factor that the more expensive oil gets, the more expensive everything gets. The more expensive energy trickles up to the increase in prices everywhere. But at least they understood the metrics then. They want to say it's oil prices, but it's Putin's fault. It's the stimulus package from 3 years ago. So shift the argument. All right, let's just hear what they have to say, because this is fantastic. President Biden remarks, okay, 2 days after the Labor Department reported that the consumer price index had risen 8.5%, the fastest 12 months since 1981, President made the remarks. Energy and food prices can be volatile, and so many economists focus on the, quote, core, end quote, inflation rate that excludes those items. But even that showed a rate of 6.5%, or about 25% lower than the overall rate. So how can Biden make this claim? Many readers were eager for an answer, especially since some people on Twitter truncated his comment to leave off because of the impact of oil prices, making it seem especially absurd. Let's dig into the weeds. Oh, forget it. Let's just go to the conclusion. The Pinocchio test. This is one of those clever talking points that pose a conundrum when doing the Pinocchio test. Biden's math is defensible, especially because his full quote, not the truncated one, specifically recurs to oil prices. But at the same time, ordinary people might certainly have assumed he was referring to the 12-month inflation rate, not the 1-month figure. In other words, they're liars. We went back and forth over whether some level of Pinocchios were warranted. We were tempted to award 2 Pinocchios, essentially half true. We certainly would be more comfortable if Biden had referred specifically to monthly inflation figures, but he did refer to the invasion that began 50 days ago. So we will leave this unrated and let our readers. What a bunch of effing scoundrels. All right, that was a long-winded way of just saying, back in 2022, Biden was blaming inflation on Putin's price hike because he rightly understands to some extent energy prices go up, the price of everything goes up. Okay. Kamala now is blaming it on price gouging. And let's see why. I mean, no, that's not the right one. Kamala's now, it's not Putin's price hike. The inflation is caused by price gouging. And now Kamala's going to go after it by proposing to cap. Is this it? Here we go. I mean, it's Washington Post is like it's on fire today. Kamala Harris to propose ban on price gouging for food groceries. Because understand this, by the way, and understand why this leads to it may not lead to famine in the West. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to accuse Americans of starving to death, although I think people do underestimate the amount of children who suffer food insecurity. Up in Canada, it's almost like 1 in 4 children suffer food insecurity. So it's not because we live in the West that we are somehow immune from starvation or at the very least food insecurity. But understand why this is sort of like the compound double whammy of stupidity. Biden understood that increasing energy prices serves sometimes in general as the basis for inflation. They're not going to solve that unless they do drill, baby, drill and bring energy back home and lower the prices of energies and don't deplete the reserves. They're not going to resolve the actual cause of the problem. And they're going to implement a solution which is only going to exacerbate the problem because you're not reducing the costs of production, but you're going to cap the costs of sale as if inflation is the result of price gouging in the first place. But don't worry, Kamala Harris, when she was Attorney General, she went after price gouging. She'll do it again. Kamala Harris to propose a ban on price gouging for food and groceries. The vice president on Friday will make the most substantive economic policy announcement since stealing Donald Trump's no tax on chips. I'm joking, since launching her campaign. Let's hear it. Because what is smooth brain, cackling, commie, copycat, idiot Kamala going to suggest? Let's exacerbate the problem. But in exacerbating the problem, we're also going to give us more power, us being the government who caused the problem in the first place. Vice President Kamala Harris on Friday will unveil a proposed ban on price gouging in the grocery and food industries, embracing a strikingly populist proposal. I don't know which elements of the populace at large support that. They support bringing down inflation, but you don't do it by not solving the problem and implementing a policy that's going to exacerbate that problem. Whatever. Okay. In her most significant economic policy announcement since becoming presidential nominee, the Democrat Party is now. I could probably just read the article. It'd be easier. In a statement released late Wednesday night, the Harris campaign said that if elected, she would push for the first ever federal ban on food price hikes. Goes from food price gouging to food price hikes, with sweeping new powers for federal authorities. Amazing. It's like the and if Republicans vote against sweeping new powers for federal authorities, already the biggest employer out there, 2.8 million civilians. I mean, it's just amazing. George Washington, small government, stay out of foreign conflict. Kamala Harris government, big government, let's start World War III. Because don't forget, I call it Kamala Harris's government. She's the current vice president. It's her administration now that is at the helm of the inflation, of the alleged price gouging. Harris on Friday will also announce plans to lower prescription drugs and housing costs. Yeah, that's great. We're going to do everything. We're going to do everything when I become president to solve the problems that I've caused when I was vice president. Harris's plan amounts to a sharp escalation in the economic populism, even of President Joe Biden, who had already pulled the party to the left on economic policy compared with Democrat predecessors. While offering some overtures to the business elite, Harris is attempting to respond to intense voter frustration over rising prices, particularly grocery prices, with far-reaching proposals. Capping the prices will do nothing to reduce the price. In the long run, what it will do is cause shortages in the short term. It's like, I mean, just look at what Stalin did under his reign of terror and the Great Starvation. The government took control of food production, but they don't do it well. They don't do anything well. That's why they have to be the smallest possible evil in order to do the least possible damage. Back to the article, Harris's plan will include the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, setting clear rules of the road to make clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit customers to run up excessive corporate profits on food and groceries. The exact details of the campaign were not immediately clear, but Harris said she would aim to enact the ban within her first 100 days, in part by directing the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, to impose harsh penalties on firms that break new limits on, quote, price gouging. May we know what that is? The statement did not define price gouging or excessive profits. Do we need to keep going with this? Oh, God, look at this verbal diarrhea. We're not. Just skip to the end. Forget it. We're done. That's it. So what's she going to do to solve the problem? Well, first, she's not going to actually solve the problem. And second, she's going to implement policy that's going to exacerbate it. And you want to understand how tens of millions of people starved to death under Stalin's communism? You need wonder no more. You ever wonder how neighbors turned in neighbors during Nazi Germany? You need wonder no more when you have your Waltz snitch hotline for people who are breaking COVID rules. Whew, I see a familiar face over on Rumble. Bada bing, bada boom. Good afternoon from Anton's free first shipment for your biltong using code Viva on www.biltongusa.com and www.antonusa.com. Try your first one shipping on us. Use Viva10 for 10% off all your purchases. That's not an ad. That's just biltong using the Rumble Rant feature very well. Biltong is like South African beef jerky. It's delicious. I eat it. And Anton, the Wagyu Ghost, holy sweet, spicy, merciful goodness. That'll wake you up if you're ever feeling a little lethargic in the afternoon. All right, so that's it. That's Kamala Harris. It's Copycat, Commie, Cackling, Kamala. I don't know what order is best there. I would go with Cackling, Cackling, Copycat, Commie, Kamala. I think that would work best. So that's Kamala, but the war on JD is not over. And this is another clip that I've been seeing go around. And I listened to the clip because, you know, it's on Twitter. People are enraged in the comment section. The tweets, the retweets, the quote tweets, the replies, rage. JD is the anti-woman, referred to women as cat lady, and now suggesting that, you know, I don't know, reducing women to post-menopausal women. And so I see the comments. And because I just want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about when I retweet or comment on it, I go to listen to the actual tweet. Now, without getting into it just yet, because Ana Navarro Cardenas, who is the biggest idiot on earth from, if I know I could do it this way now. There you go. Look at that. Proud Nicaraguan American on CNN and The View. If you needed any evidence or confirmation as to why, or confirmation in advance that Ana Navarro is an idiot, I don't know if she's a smooth brain or a liar, but she's an idiot. CNN and The View shall yet again eliminate any and all doubt. She's an idiot. I love America, imperfections and all. That's interesting. In 2024, I'm single issue voter for Trump to lose. Amazing. It's just total logic. All right. Her thoughtful, on point, insightful tweet replied to JD Vance goes as follows. I am a 1, childless, 2, dog lady, 3, in menopause. That might explain the mood swings. Bada bing, bada boom. 4, with great respect for furniture, because they're repeating the lie that JD Vance allegedly in his book had a verse on how he's pleasured himself to the cracks in a leather couch. It's a fabricated lie, and I guarantee you Ana Navarro thinks it's real. That's her thing. I have so many reasons to vote against this weirdo. Ugh. Idiots. I mean, idiots. I bet you she thinks the couch story is true, and she's using the talking point weirdos because they're 12 effing years old, and that's what works on smooth brain idiot 12-year-olds. Okay, so then I go to the tweet. Is it going to let me do this? Okay, fine. And this is Republicans against Trump. Now I know that they're idiots because they're actually Democrats. I mean, the only Republicans against Trump are actually like Nikki Haley Democrats, Kellyanne Conway type Republicans, Democrats, deep state swamp hacks, or Democrats. But Republicans against Trump, you can know that whatever they put out is a lie, pretty much. So in their comment on the video, because now we got to click twice, right? We go Anna Navarro, and if you want to hear the original video, you got to click through the tweet to go to Republicans, and then you got to click on it. But they say JD Vance once said that the whole purpose of the, quote, post-menopausal female, end quote, is to help with the grandkids. Now, I read that. I'm like, okay, we're gonna listen to this in real time. I'll pause and I'll comment. It's a spliced together podcast. I'm pretty sure I know who JD Vance is. Let's hear what JD Vance said himself, shall we?
And you can sort of see the effect it has on him to be around them. Like they spoil him. There's sort of all the classic stuff that grandparents do to grandchildren, but it makes him a much better human being to have exposure to his grandparents.
Well, I don't know.
And the evidence on this, by the way, is like super clear.
That's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal
Yes.
female in theory. Do you
understand how they treat these people are liars, so they treat everybody like they're idiots because that's the only way these lies go. It was the interviewer who said that's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal woman, and then immediate hard edit. So we don't know what came after that. I have not had the time to go find this podcast in its entirety to see what came after that hard edit. But everybody, pay attention to hard edits because you may or may not appreciate that there was one right there. Listen,
Exposure to his grandparents.
well,
That's the
I don't
whole-
know.
And the evidence on this, by the way, is like super clear.
That's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal
Yes.
female in theory. Did your
in theory, edit. What JD Vance is saying is that he had the good fortune, the blessing, because it's a blessing, to have lived with his mother-in-law for a year, and that his mother-in-law, we're going to get to that in a second, and my wife was listening to this. She's like, people are criticizing JD Vance for this statement. Let me see if she wants to pop on. Listen to this. I'll let him. He basically just said, I was lucky to have my mother-in-law living with us when we had our grandkid because she's, in addition to spoiling him, he had this wonderful experience. And science says it's good to have a child brought up, not in a government community, but by family and by a mother-in-law who went on sabbatical, put her professional life on something of a hold. Sabbatical is not a full hold, and raised our kid. And it was a blessing. And they try to turn this into a negative. I couldn't understand it.
in-laws, and particularly your mother-in-law, show up
Listen
in
to this.
some huge way?
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So, you know,
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No,
because
so
that's
yeah.
this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
So it's in some ways the most transgressive thing I've ever done against sort of the hyper neoliberal approach to work and family. My wife had this baby 7 weeks before she started the clerkship. Still not sleeping any more than an hour and a half in a given interval. And her mom just took a sabbatical. She's a biology professor in California.
His wife is going back to work. His mom is, what did he say, neuroscientist, taking a sabbatical. And the amazing thing also, I was listening to Bourbon with Barnes where, they're trying to, Waltz is trying to shame JD Vance out of being, out of his working class upbringing by saying that the fact that he went to Yale somehow delegitimizes the fact that he's a working class American. It's wild. Soft bigotry of low expectations.
Just took a sabbatical for a year and came and lived with us and took care of our kid for a year.
Okay.
And it was just one of these things where it's like, this is what you do.
So biology professor, PhD.
Yes.
Sounds like my wife.
Props what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sabbatical, I think they can still continue to work, but it's sort of like it's not a vacation. So I presume she was still working, and there's still time to work when you're raising a kid, people.
To immediately tend to the needs of a new mother with her infant.
Painfully economically inefficient. Right?
Can I just propose?
Like why didn't she just keep her job, give us part of the wages to pay somebody else to do it, right? Because that is the thing that the hyper liberalized economics wants you to do.
By the way, very important point here. Why not just work so you can pay other people to raise your kids? Why not go work all day and send your kid off to public schooling where you don't raise the kid, the state raises the kid. That's basically the end goal of liberalism, capital D, Democrats in any event. Oh, and by the way, Sam Sorbo, Kevin Sorbo's wife, a homeschooling proponent, is going to be on next Tuesday for an interview to talk about this very issue. The idea, and we lived through this as well. You're making money, more money in theory, so that you can then pay other people to raise your kid, get a nanny, send them to daycare so that you can go back to work quicker. And you end up basically passing off or sacrificing your kid to the state, which is exactly what they want. And it's an amazing thing that they go demonize JD Vance for putting this forward. The idea that we came together as a family, and although it was in theory uneconomical, my mother-in-law might have been able to make more money working and help us out to find help to raise our kid. This is what family and proper upbringing is probably a healthier way of going about it. So you got to demonize it, but I don't know. But apparently reducing this to JD Vance saying that's all that postmenopausal women are good for. Hillary Clinton tweeted it. It's just lies, but I love it.
The economic logic of always prioritizing paid wage labor over other forms of contributing to a society is to me
unhealthy.
It's actually a consequence of a sort of fundamental liberalism that is ultimately going to unwind and collapse upon itself.
I think
it's the abandonment of a sort of Aristotelian virtue politics for a hyper market oriented way of thinking about what's good and what's desirable. If people are paying for it and it contributes to GDP and it makes the economic consumption numbers rise, then it's good. And if it doesn't, it's bad. I think that entire sort of, to me, that's sort of the root of our political problem.
I would actually take it one step further, JD, if you're listening, that it's part of the plan. Force people to pass their kids off to the state because the state will then get to raise them, brainwash them, and turn them into useful tools of the state. It'll be easier to make a kid turn in his parents during the next cultural revolution when they've been brought up by and indoctrinated by the state. So yeah, that's it. No, isn't it more effective? You go make money and pay someone to raise your kids, and demonize the housewives or demonize the women that decide to stay home and raise their children as being telling them that they're somehow less because of what they've chosen to do. Oh no, they're not aspiring to be a partner at a law firm, so they must be worth less because they've decided to stay home and raise a healthy household and not pawn off the children to strangers 8 hours a day. I say this as someone who puts my kids into public school, and I'm starting to think about things. Who was the other one? Oh yeah, the football player. Who was the football player who gave the speech? It wasn't Travis Kelce. Who was the football player that gave the speech where he talked about his wife as having achieved, her purpose by having raised their children and allowed him to, pursue a career, and how she sacrificed her own career to raise the children. And he got lambasted for even having for even having commented on his own life experience and that of his wife. Who was it? Let's see if anyone's going to get that. Harrison Butker. Thank you very much. It's a pattern. It's a pattern at destroying the family, at making the government basically the pillar of all of society. Anyway, so that was it. That was debunking the fake news of the day. I can't stand the lies that they spread, and now they're going to it wasn't even, from what I understand, JD Vance that referred to the woman as a grandmother as postmenopausal. It was the guy in the context of a woman postmenopausal, in that she's not having more kids. She's at that later stage of life where she can help you raise your family and keep that beautiful family environment what it should be. Oh, it's amazing. Anyhow, I like JD. So that's the end of that. Alrighty, hold on one second. There was a tip here that I want to bring up. Encryptus. Hold on one second. Before that, we'll bring this one up here. S. Ren. Viva Fry, have you seen the new Disney lawsuit? They're trying to force arbitration when they killed a woman. You and Barnes should look into it. Here's a vid about it. I think I heard about that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Barnes briefly touched on it during the Bourbon with Barnes yesterday, that the arbitration agreement was an ancillary contract to the original contract, and how they want to force people. I mean, look, the perks of arbitration are also its pitfalls. It's private. So it's private. It's very expensive. Arbitrators typically tend to be retired judges, so of a certain type. It does not result in exposure to the world, which might be worth more than the actual lawsuit itself. I heard about it. I know nothing more than that, so I'll check it out afterwards. Esther, and thank you. Then we got Encryptus back in the house, who says, Viva Fry, have you seen the reports on all private data, social security numbers, names, phones, and every address ever associated with a person, including dead people, has been released online? A result of illegal data gathering confirmed true. I heard about it. Now I'm going to have to go see if I'm on it. Damn it. I had my data hacked. Not my data, but I was on a list that was hacked back in the day. And first of all, I couldn't care less. Social security numbers those are more serious issues. But as someone who lives under the reality that everything and anything will eventually be public, and you're probably being spied on right now. Yes, that's the reality of the world in which we live. All right, what do we got next on the story? Let me see here. I got in the backdrop. There's still more. There's still a few more things to talk about. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. So the news of the day, or at least following up on the failed Trump assassination, and the what can only be described as a deliberate security failure. I mean, it's deliberate incompetence, deliberate whatever. It's a made it happen on purpose. We talked about some of the new details yesterday. The kid who was training, was training at, I say yesterday, I was on the Unusual Suspects. Crooks had been training at a shooting range, which was known to train professionals, Homeland Security, whatever, local law enforcement. He'd been training there 43 days over the last year. Christmas, Valentine's Day, Halloween, partaking in drills to teach him how to fire under mass shooter events, apparently. Given what the kid looked like, and I'm not being judgmental, it's a matter of fact, a loner, clearly looked a little off, out there alone, 43 days a year. He would be the red flag that any law enforcement would pick up upon if they were, doing their job. And something tells me they were doing their job, and they did pick up on him, and we'll find out how and when later on. Okay. Security failures that are inexplicable, fractal wrongness, so many oversights, it can only be deliberate. The latest, it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's announcing to the world Secret Service is incompetent. And anybody can have their way with them. Listen to this. 8.5% annuity return. That's a good deal. Can I actually just get rid of that, please? Okay, thank you. Why is this canceled? Daily Caller. I don't want to listen to this. Secret Service agent abandoned post guarding Trump to breastfeed. Report. It's just a report for now. Holy hell. A female Secret Service agent abandoned her post to breastfeed a child right before former President Trump's North Carolina rally. Wednesday, Real Clear Politics' Susan Crabtree reported. Susan Crabtree has been Susan Crabtree on the assassination attempt, failed assassination, is the go-to. Julie Kelly, everything Jan 6, everything Jan 6 related. Julie Kelly, she's been on the channel. The Revolver, Darren Beattie, also everything related to Jan 6. I'm going to try to get Darren Beattie back on because I want to talk about some recent developments in the Jan 6 stuff. So Crabtree, who thus far has not burnt anybody with the knowledge or information that she's put out, writes this, or at least puts out this information. The site agent in charge of security for an entire event, the site agent in charge of the security for the entire event, found the Secret Service agent breastfeeding her child in a room that was supposed to be set aside for Secret Service, quote, official work, end quote, 5 minutes before Trump's motorcade arrived, according to Crabtree. The woman, who came from the Atlantic field office, was in the room with 2 other family members, Crabtree reported. And you got the Crabtree tweet. We'll get to that in a second. She and her family reportedly bypassed the uniformed division checkpoint and were escorted by a staff member who was not cleared to be there to the room, according to Crabtree. Secret Service. It's so laughably stupid. It's so laughably outrageous. And you can understand the rationale. Like, this is how, let me take this and we'll come back to it in a second. Suicidal empathy, to borrow Gad Saad's term. Suicidal empathy. You want to be empathetic to the point where you put yourself in harm's way. Well, I don't want to be, look, okay, she's a pregnant woman. She's a recently birthed woman. We don't want to discriminate against not hiring new mothers at Secret Service because we're inclusive, right? Well, shit, she's got a kid. We can't make her pump at work. And what you're going to do, carry around bottles of booby juice? For those of you who don't know, by the way, because I took what I won't make any jokes, but I took parental leave, what some people refer to as maternity leave in my case. A woman can pump when her boobs get all filled with milk and lactating fluid and they get like rock hard to the point where they can actually spring a leak. I've shared this story, so it doesn't matter if it's TMI. One of our kids had a problem latching, and over a certain course of time, a few days a week, like effectively gnawed off my wife's nipple because the baby wasn't latching properly. And so to relieve the pain and the pressure, getting some sun on them, and we're sitting there, and literally it springs a leak. There's like milk starts squirting out of one of the glands. You could actually see the gland where the baby had like gnawed on it, and milk is just spurting out because the pressure builds up. They become hard and firm, and you have to relieve the pressure. Like milking a cow relieves the pressure on the cow. It actually feels good. And so, or it relieves the stress. Same thing on a woman. If the baby doesn't do it, you got to do it somewhere. So you can go to a pumping room, you pump into bottles, and you take it up. Okay, fine. That was my first taste of breast milk, and it's sweeter than regular milk. Okay, TMI story over. The woman is breastfeeding her kid at an event where the president is coming and where diligence is required at all time and where violence is possible at all time. It's suicidal empathy. And I would argue it's also homicidal empathy when it comes to the baby. You're putting a baby at risk because you don't want to impose rational policy when it comes to new mothers who are breastfeeding. No, you don't take a baby to an event where lethal force might need to be effected as a result of the job that you have doing it. A Trump supporter bringing a baby to the protest, their prerogative, their constitutional right, and I no blame in that. Whether or not I would take kids to these events, I'm neurotic, so I don't, judge others based on my own mental issues. The Secret Service agent bringing her baby because she's breastfeeding, okay, fine. Maybe this is an argument for maternity leave. Like, take 3 months off or 3 weeks off, and don't come to work until you can come to work without bringing a baby. Suicidal empathy. And it can lead to homicidal empathy because as a result of their tolerance of the absurd for the purposes of social virtue signaling, whatever, someone is dead now. Listen to this. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi told Crabtree that the incident did not affect the event. Well, we won't know that. I mean, I don't think it did either, but it could have. And it could have affected the event for the baby. A Secret Service agent is bringing a baby, her own child, her own family, past a security point, and abandoning her post to breastfeed. Iran is taking notes. Quote, all employees of the U.S. Secret Service are held to the highest standards, he said, while there was no impact to the North Carolina event. Oh, no, this is another one. This is at a North Carolina event, not Butler. The specifics of this incident are being examined. Given this is a personal matter, we are not in a position to comment further. Sorry, let me correct. So this wasn't at Butler, but for the grace of God, there was no event. This was at another event. Oh my goodness. This incident occurred a little over the month after Trump. Yep. There's a banging ground. Let's go. In the wake of the incident, critics have scolded the Secret Service for their unpreparedness. Former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle resigned her post after succumbing to outside pressure July 23rd. But it's actually, you know what, now that I'm, holy crap, this wasn't a secondary story at Butler. This is a month after Butler. This is the type of security that's going on at events in the wake of the scrutiny of Butler. Talk about not only not learning, talk about learning the wrong lessons. Holy hell. Oh my goodness. So that's it. Yeah, Secret Service. It's like the lessons they've learned. Yeah, maybe we need drones at events. Maybe our eyesight's not good enough. Maybe we need to have walkie-talkies or radios that are on the same channel, so that when the cops see a guy with an AR-15 on a roof, in the 30 seconds they have, they can maybe go get Trump off the stage immediately. Maybe we need that. Okay, so drones. You're taking notes there. Whatever it is, Abate or the other guy there. You need a drone in the sky. It's a good idea. If the criminals use one, you might want to use one to spot the criminals. You need radios that are on the same wave. You need to cover the roofs, especially the ones that give you a clear shot at the target. You need to cover those roofs. And breastfeeding new mothers should take some time off, or at least be given a position where they can breastfeed without abandoning their security positions 1 month after a fatal shooting and a near presidential assassination. Maybe those are just some notes to take, and I'm no professional. I've never worked in law enforcement. Just, stating the obvious. Has that covered it for everything? Let me see if there's anything else here. I think we've done it. I think we've done it for the day. So I'm going to go to the chat and we'll take some chat, and then we're going to go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party. But just a reminder of what's coming up. Tuesday, Sam Sorbo, a proponent of homeschooling, she'll be coming on. We're going to have a great discussion, and then I'm going to go on her channel afterwards. But I've got my questions, and it might be a checklist of what needs to be done and what can we expect and how, Sam Sorbo Tuesday, Sunday night show coming up. Tomorrow I will be live. Stay tuned. Next week, I should be in studio with Vinny Oshana at some point. We're just trying to figure out a date. Vincent from The Unusual Suspects. Hilarious, fantastic, amazing guy. And I know his life story now, and I want him to share it with the world on a podcast with me. So stay tuned for that. Let me just go over to the Rumble chat for a bit and see what the dealio is. My nose is itchy. All right, let's get into the chat and see what's going on here. They all knew what they were doing. They want Trump gone. That is from Lisa with many S's. There's no other explanation. Calamity Sue says maternity leave is one of those new women's rights. I don't think they have to pay you, but they cannot fire you for maternity leave. I can make the economic argument for why maternity leave should be reasonably compensated. It would be an asset that would attract people to a job, I believe. In Quebec, where I'm from, you get parental leave, and it's something like 70% of your salary covered by the government for a certain period of time, with up to a certain amount. But you've already paid into the system anyhow with your whopping taxes. So your whopping taxes go to a useful purpose. I used it because I think first of all, it was the best 2 months of my life. Able to relieve the pressure of a newborn on my wife, and it was I paid into the system, and it was. You don't get rich doing it, but it certainly allows you a bonding opportunity that you never have. I had this discussion with one of my mentors, and I very much respect and like the guy, the man. And it's his philosophy was different. If you're going to take the time off, do it at a time when the kid's going to remember it. And I said, no, I think I'm going to do it at a time where I'm going to imprint on my kid in a way that they won't remember, but will be there forever. I think I took off a month and a half or 2 months. I have to go double check. Don't want to get misquoted as lying. Kevin Sorbo is a solid dude, and I can only assume the same of his wife, says Corn Macabre. She's amazing. I met them at the PragerU event. They're amazing. And it's amazing meeting Hollywood types. I guess they're former Hollywood who are not freaks. I mean, the amazing, down-to-earth, real people. And I guess that might be why they left that environment. You cannot live in Hollywood and not have it destroy you if you're not already destroyed, and not be not approve of that cesspool demonic lifestyle. If you don't approve of it, you're going to end up leaving. James Woods, Dean Cain, who do I want to think of now? Chuck Woolery, Roseanne Barr. Yeah. Oh, and Cormac Cobb says, yep, Sorbo and Kirk Cameron, man, great humans right there. You can split 1 year between man and woman, says Honor 234. Yeah, there's maternity leave, there's paternal, maternal, parental in Quebec. One of them was shareable, the other one wasn't, and the other one you can carry on for a little bit. I am sure the government does pay, says Calamity Sue. Let's see here. Pono8888 says, did no one see the kid run to handlers before the first shots? They deleted him on the other end. I want to see that. Let me see here. Oh, Viva Fry. I told whoever was running the chat on the TUS, is that yesterday, to take you and Rob to a gun range, FYI. Oh, the unusual suspects. Dude, I'm texting. That would be glorious, glorious content. Let me just go ahead and text Vinny right now. I'll be back in 1 second. I'll do that afterwards. Oh, I'm so stupid. Hold on. Let's make this a little bit easier for everybody and more fun. Let me see it. Boom, look at that. Now I can see everything. Pete's maternity leave shows the folly of progressive society. Well done, son. Pete Buttigieg. Okay, that's because you have two gay men, neither of which gave birth to the baby. So in theory, hey, look, someone's got to stay home with the baby. Or someone should, at least, not pawn off a newborn to a total stranger. Oh, you said, see, yeah, Corn Macabre says, I was so surprised Rob said he hadn't shot a gun. I've shot a gun. But I took my license and passed it and had a 12 gauge Remington up in Canada. Let's see here. Honor234 says, I agree with maternity leave. Let's be honest, SS says, certain companies do, but that's part of the employment benefits to retain good employees. People that abandon their post are not good employees, in my opinion. Yep. All right, that's it, people. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to do another vlog tonight. What should be the day vlog? Get in the car. Do I look too short? By the way, I love this shirt. It's not part of my merch. Keep calm, it's just a gator. I'll see if my kid wants to go fishing this afternoon. We're going to go to the Viva Barnes Law, datlocals.com community. Boomstick Viva says SB Farmer. What's a boomstick? Joe Masque in our community says, I took 2 weeks off work when we had our first. My wife kicked me out of the house the second week. Joe Masque. We're going to save this discussion for the after party on Locals. Let me give everybody the link there. We're going to have I'll delve into a little more Q&A. Stay tuned for tomorrow. I'll be live tomorrow. Link to Locals is in the description. And everybody, thank you all for being here. It's a wonderful. I hope you enjoy not the new format, but the new time slot. Dedicated, consistent, committed. I'm doing it. And yesterday when I was out at the Unusual Suspects at their studio, and I'm like, I won't be able to get back in time. Alex Jones, would you mind if I'd love to go on. Let's co-stream it, and we did, and it was fantastic. And let me just make sure I haven't missed anything, which I don't think I have. Okay, so that's it. Locals, coming on over. Rumble, if you're not coming, I'll see you tomorrow. Viva Fry on Rumble, Viva Fry on Twitter, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. $10 a month, $100 a year. If you want to support the work that Robert and I do, that's the best place to do it. Merchandise, you can get some good. Oh yes, we're going to make some merch now because it's election season, and I'm told that I'm stupid for not revamping or upping the merch game. So vivafry.com, where you can get all your merch. We're going to have a bunch of new stuff up there, and it's going to be fantastic. So with that said, Rumble, if you're not coming over to Locals, I will see you tomorrow. We are going to local supporters only, and it's going to be a 6-second countdown, people. Thank you all for being here, Rumble. Peace out. Enjoy the day. Locals, here I come. We're here. Let's see what's going on in Locals. Okay, we got USA Now has a meme, which I'm going to bring up. I'll talk about my getting older is waking up and thinking you're hungover, then remembering, nope, this is just who I am now. It's very funny you mentioned that. Because okay, let's take this out. I forget who the expression is, like, you're supposed to feel good a third of the time, feel bad a third of the time, and what's the middle part there? And if you end up spending too much time on one or the other, feel good 1/3 of the time, bad 1/3. There's an expression here, the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds. Okay, some good days. Here we go. If you don't know this. And I think, no. The rule of thirds when chasing, I thought that said chasing a girl. Chasing a goal. How we think we should feel, 100% good. How it should feel. Good, okay, crappy, and that's okay. So I've definitely, for the last little while, been in the crappy. And everything is bad when you're in the crappy. You sleep crappy. You feel cranky, irritable, a little insecure, depressed, questioning everything. And then you're sort of just waiting for that pendulum or that circle to spin around and go back to the feeling good. Not there yet. because it's like, well, and when you're in that mode, everything you do, you feel is wrong. And it's like, it's the expression, if you're driving and you run into one bad driver, they're the asshole. But if you run into 15 bad drivers, you're the asshole. It's a question of perspective. When you're in a bad mood, you get more irritated at trolls. You feel compelled to reply to trolls for no better reason, because like, it's angry. I think I have to do it. I better do it. That's it. And so if you're not self-reflective, you could exacerbate that spiral a lot more than, okay, I'm in a bad mood. Everybody's an asshole on the road this morning, and it's me, not them. And now I have to, I don't know, figure it out. Go get another cup of coffee. So that's where I'm at a little bit. When I first had our kids, by the way, so we had 3 kids. I was a lawyer I was always a lawyer for all 3, but I was working at Borden Ladner Gervais for the first, our 14 year. How old is she now? 15? I don't know. She's in her teens. No, she's 15. Somewhere around there. I took what they jokingly referred to as maternity leave. I didn't care about the joke. I'm not sensitive. It was something that was available. You take a massive pay cut so that you could actually tend to your wife and not so much tend to the kid. My wife, we were having latching problems with I think it was the first kid we had the latching problems, and she wasn't sleeping at all. You're not sleeping. You're absolutely an irrational, emotional, exhausted mess. And so that's when I incidentally purchased a lot of stupid things at 4 a.m, watching those Ron Popeil ads. I got the Ron Popeil food dehydrator. Where is that? I like that thing. I'm trying to think of some of the memorable, stupid things that I got. Oh, these knives. I got these. Oh, and the copper pot bottom things. It was like the most lubricated copper pot ever. I would be up in the middle of the night. I'd have the bottle that was sucked out of my wife's boobies with the pumper, which literally looks like something you would stick on a cow. It's a okay. I know I've never told this one before. The breast pumping device. You stick it on and it goes. Literally something you'd expect to put on an animal. And when I first put it on my wife, I didn't realize that there were notches. Like it had it was like the amplifier in that movie. I forget what it's called. And I had it on 11, and apparently it hurts when you put it on full blast. And I did not know that. And I learned that immediately because it was an instantaneous shriek of pain. What was the movie called? The fake documentary of the heavy metal movie. The movie, it turned into a real band. But why does it go to 11? Because it's better than 10. Well, I'm not looking. I'm looking. And so that's it. So I took parental or paternity. I forget what it was, but Spinal Tap. Thank you. There you go. And it was the best thing that I ever done. And you go back and you've set your career back, however long you do it, a month, 2 months. You set your career back, except you set your identity forward because you announce basically, first of all, if you're going to penalize me for that, F you, I don't care. And I'm more interested in actually being an ingrained core memory in my child than being a money-making young lawyer at a firm. They were very good about it. My firm it was nice. Not all firms were equally as good. So it was an amazing thing that everybody should be able to do, and any employer offering it should be attracting more skilled labor because I think people would very much appreciate that asset. Greatest improv ever was Spinal Tap, LT Vista. I have to watch Hardcore Logo again. I remember not knowing it was a documentary the first time I saw it, and I was so bloody depressed the way it ended, but I won't ruin it. We got Rakasha, or Rakshasa says, question, what do you know about the Rumble Premium and Locals merge? How will it affect our community, Viva Fry? Chris mentioned it. I'm going to make sure I understand the details. I don't think it changes anything. I don't think it's going to change anything. It's just going to facilitate how Rumble subscribers can become Rumblers. I'm going to call Chris today and ask him actually just so I can make sure. So Rakasha, let me screen grab that because I can understand some concerns if people think it's going to either kill the community or open it up to raging rampant trolls. In which case, we might have to do something like make open, well, whatever. Before I even hypothesize solutions to problems that I don't even know exist yet, I'll get some details. USA Now says Viva's still traumatized by baby milking increased therapy sessions. No, it was wild. Like seeing it's like it's straight up what you'd put on a cow. Like it just is, and it goes brr, 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 brr. And then the milk is like it's not white, it's like yellow, creamy, and then it's like and it fills up these bottles. And I mean, I don't like milk in general. I didn't like breast milk anymore. But yes, so there's that. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, the homeschooling. Oh, well, thank you. You know what, Nabil, I wanted to bring this up, but it's actually, let's just do it here. The homeschooling, we're seriously thinking about it for our third kid, for Ethan. And it's an amazing thing. Like, this is where you realize, like, you grow up with not trauma. I will not refer to my childhood as trauma, but you grow up with what you think is basically how the system works. I hated school more than anything. I still remember how much I hated it and everything that I hated about it. I absolutely, first of all, could not sit still, obviously. I hated being told what to do. I hated the rules. I hated the smell. I hated the echo of the hallway. I hated the rusty hinges on those lockers. And the ones that you have to lift up with a little latch that goes, and then you lift it up. I hated everything about the school experience. When I go back into school now to meet my kids' teachers, it's like it brings back the trauma that I experienced. I never wanted to go to school. I used to, if my kid's watching this, he'll get some bad ideas. I used to not pretend having stomach aches because I think I actually had stomach aches. I'd wake up in the morning and put a note on my door that says, I can't go to school today. I have a stomach ache. And my mom wouldn't wake me up and would let me stay. I would, it's so crazy living life backwards. I wouldn't sleep properly. And then I'd put up a note on my front door that said, I couldn't sleep last night. Can I stay home? And my mother would let me stay home for school. I wouldn't do it all the time. It was a struggle to get through elementary school. It was a struggle to get through high school. I became what I am today for good and for bad. And then you just sort of think like, well, that's the way it has to be. And I, growing up, I didn't know anybody who homeschooled. And the only references to homeschooling I saw, like this, I'm going to talk about with Sam when we have the chats. The only references to homeschooling that I ever had growing up was what you see in the movies. Religious. I don't want to say extremist because I don't believe it, but it's a religious thing, small town thing, country thing. It's not something that city folk do. Those are the stereotypes. I mean, I grew up in the age of the deliverance, where all that they were doing was demonizing and vilifying Middle America. And now I'm in Florida. I mean, I even know people who are homeschooling up in Canada. There's no stigma to it anymore. And I'm forced to just challenge my preconceived notion. It doesn't have to be for my kid the way it was for me. It looks like we're sort of composed the same way, for good and for bad. And maybe it doesn't have to be this way. So that's it. We'll see. We'll explore that. But I'm going to get to something in a second right after this. Viva Fry. Communism is the source of mass starvation. It was under capitalism we had the Great Depression, and the Dust Bowl was created in the United States. So using the communism model is false. Complete false to blame on starvation. Too much is blamed on communism, where capitalism is far more at fault. Well, first of all, it is capitalism by our USA that is causing starvation in other countries by trying to overthrow the other country's leadership, and then our USA calls it communism or use sanctions. I'll disagree with one thing here. The Great Depression, I would qualify as something different than the Great Starvation in Russia under Stalinism. To say that starvation in other countries is caused by capitalism, I would argue that it's caused by crony capitalism, which is not capitalism, and or the military-industrial complex, which is corruption and not capitalism. And as far as starvations go, where you had under Mao's Cultural Revolution, mass starvation, you had under Stalin, mass starvation, in the orders of millions. I would blame that on communism or socialism, whereas the Great Depression might have been caused by capitalism, but I don't have a sufficient understanding of the causes of the Great Depression to have an opinion that I would rely on even for my own assessment. But as far as starvation caused by overthrowing other countries, I wouldn't call that the end result of capitalism by any means. I think that's crony capitalism at least, but more just outright military-industrial complex corruption. And the starvation in a lot of those countries, I didn't say it's not caused by anything else. It's certainly caused by corruption, because for all the aid that goes to those countries, it doesn't seem like any of the aid is actually going to solving any problems. So point taken, but I disagree, and that's no harm, no foul, and I hope you still like me. All right, now, excuse me. We did save one thing by accident, but we're going to bring it up now anyhow. Apparently this, so this is so cool. So Nabil Boudi, and I think Nabil Boudi, let me just double check this. I think Nabil Boudi is representing Nabil Boudi, avocat pour Khalif. I think that's the lawyer for Khalif. Exclusive, Maître Nabouli, avocat au barreau de Paris, chargé de l'affaire Imam Khalif. There we go. It is her. Okay. So I'll bring that up in a second. Nabil Boudi is the lawyer for Khalif who filed the criminal complaint. Communiqué de presse, this is a press release. It's not the official complaint. So we don't yet, I have yet to be able to find the official complaint, but it doesn't really matter. Communiqué de presse is a press release. Après le temps sportif vient le temps judiciaire. After sports time comes judicial time or law time. Tout juste médaillé d'or aux Jeux Olympiques, having freshly been given a gold medalist at the Olympics in Paris 2024. La boxeuse, because in French you have it would be boxeur, I imagine, for a male, and boxeuse is female. Iman Khalif a décidé de mener un nouveau combat, celui de la justice, de la dignité et de l'honneur. She's decided to pursue a new fight. The fight for justice, dignity, and honor. Madame Khalif a saisi le cabinet qui a déposé hier. She mandated our cabinet, our law firm, who filed yesterday a complaint for acts of cyber harassment, aggravated cyber harassment, auprès du pôle de lutte contre la haine. Auprès du poil de lutte. So this is like in the combat of hate online. Oh, that's the department. So that's actually auprès la pôle de lutte. So this is the department of the fighting hate online of Paris. L'enquête pénale déterminera qui était à l'initiative. So the investigation, the criminal or penal investigation, is going to determine who initiated the misogynist campaign, the racist and sexist campaign, but should also be interested in those who nourished this digital lynching. Le harcèlement inique subi, the terrible, I don't know what inique means, the harassment suffered by the champion boxer will be the biggest lasting stain of the Olympic Games, the 10th. That's it. That's as good as my real-time translation goes. So that looks to be the complaint, or at least not the complaint, the press release of the complaint, but not the complaint itself. So, okay, that's it. Let's see what's going on in the chat. We've got, what offends you? They haven't told me yet. That's good. Save image as offend. All right, let me see. Let's just go back to the chat and see what's going on here. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, there's a debate, which I'm not going to get into. Peace abroad, prosperity at home, Trump 2024. And they'll have to say, there was no peace abroad. There was no prosperity at home. I'm reading the meme here. Trump. There were more drone strikes under Trump than under Obama. Yada, yada. Okay, we got it. Did I bring on Ganthet? Let's see here. Viva, the Dust Bowl was due to 3 waves of drought and poor agricultural practices. Farmers back then didn't understand farming the way they do today. The Great Depression was multiple factors and happened in Europe, which was not capitalistic. Long before it affected the U.S., World War I contributed greatly to the Great Depression. Blaming capitalism for either is just a lie and preying on the stupidity of those who don't know their history. Well, I can tell you I'm not stupid, but I don't know the history. I tried to look up I tried to understand how the Great Depression occurred. And I read a fair bit, and I still don't fully understand it because I have difficulty immersing myself in an era in which I didn't live. The Dust Bowl I know very little about, but it sounds interesting, and I'm going to look it up. The potato famine I sort of know more about now than I did before. But but suffice to say, I'm not convinced by the argument. And thank you for the other points of retort, and also for further research. How long has this been going? Says Pam Walker. It has been going for just about an hour and 44 minutes on the nose at the time you asked that. History books do not do well talking about highly technical things like economics, says James C.C. Kelly. No, crap. I mean, it's like, I don't understand it. I'll ask my dad. Blanket Mom says, I agree. I still have nightmares about going back to school. Hated school. Love learning. Still do. Absolutely. And so does my kid. Like he learns about fish, learns about fishing, nature, geography, history. My gosh, but school is it's torture because it's prison. It's prison conditions for psychological indoctrination. Pam Walker says, I'll rewatch. Thanks, David. No worries. Stephen Britton says, See the Veil probably thinks the U.S. invaded North Korea like the North Korean children are taught. Okay, be nice to See the Veil. We don't have... in the Belfry says, on the bright side, the Great Depression in North America was followed by 5 years of war. All right. So what else? Let me go to the side. I'm going to refresh in locals and see what I can see on the side because there's live chat and there's comments. Name things that we could boycott from France to show them exactly how we feel about interference. Wine and champagne. Bordeaux. I mean, I don't know. It's how much more can you boycott France than Rumble's not there? But it's like they like it, and also, but they've got demographic issues which are going to play into this battle. They've got a population to placate by pursuing this. They've got a way to politically weaponize this bull crap investigation into Musk and J.K. Rowling. It'll go nowhere. Because as far as I understand, it doesn't even qualify as cyberbullying under French law, which has to be repeated and intended to cause harm. But Viva Fry, I follow him on X and he has some great memes. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, now we got See the Veil. Okay, I'm not getting back into that argument there. Thank you, Viva, for a good stream. It is a good thing you have a sense of humor, as it will help you get through the lies that are getting you down each day. I have a plaque that says, keep calm, buy shoes. Where's my other phone? I got a new phone, so unfortunately the wonderful phone case for the other one doesn't work anymore. But SWC, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the wisdom to change the things I can, and the courage to know the damn it. SCW, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Oh yeah. Stephen Britton says, during the live show, the chat, we discussed EVs, electric vehicles, at the request of James C. Kelly. Here's a link to the video I did recently. Excellent. And I'm going to share this with everybody right now. Link. Boom. I guess everybody saw it, but let's do it anyhow. Signs you're in survival mode from Hey Bobby Banks. Signs you're in survival mode. Little things can set you off and feel overwhelming. You feel like you're existing rather than living. You feel more tired physically and emotionally. Your memory and concentration are suffering. You feel lack of motivation and passion. You want to withdraw and to isolate from others. You feel out of control and anxious. Dude, this is like me every day of my life for my entire life. I have to pee. Not to downplay it and not to make me a baby. That's been every day of my life forever. The doctor said I'm wired that way. My GP. And what does he know? Thank you, Viva says, Britain, no problem. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the reason is you're stupid and make bad decisions. Is that Bill? That's got to be. No, that's USA Now. Not bad. Bill Brown says the starvation happens because nobody admits they didn't harvest what the government deemed they should have. So when they have to dole out the resources, they aren't really there. And then we got here, what is this? A young boy that had just stolen his father's car and crashed it takes one last puff of his cigarette before facing the consequences in 1974. I do not believe that that's a real picture, USA Now, but I love the spirit behind it. God bless Waltz. Tim Waltz storming the beaches of Normandy. See, I would feel reluctant to share those memes because I don't want anyone thinking I'm making light of other people's actual military sacrifice. We got another. What is this one? And whether you're in this country committing crimes or on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you. The WEF. It's fantastic. These freaking British fascists threatening Well, if you do it online, you're not safe. We will come for you. Mother effer. First of all, I'm never going to that hellhole England ever. I don't think I'm going back to Europe anytime soon. Maybe Poland. Maybe Lithuania. I don't know about Lithuania. I just said Lithuania because I think there's a few countries I could still think of visiting in Europe. But I guess I missed my chance to go to England because I'm not going. And we got a new Fabian Cota. Fabian Cota donated. I hope that means you are now an annual member, an annual supporter. Welcome to the Above Average community. If you were not already part of it, and if you were, thank you very much for the support. It is, what's the word I'm looking for? What is it when they creative control freedom? It is, what is it called when they try to impose, not creative control. It's not censorship. It is independence, ideological independence. It's don't cater to anyone, don't cover things because, and you don't avoid things because. Thank you. Let me see here. I'm going into the chat again at the risk of seeing some infighting. I'll leave the chat open a little bit afterwards so you guys can have fun discussing it. I hate it when he calls us above average. James C.C. Kelly. You know what? I hate when he calls us above average. What do I? Come on. What do I hear? I hear a noise going on, like something's just started short-circuiting. Zook Waltz, I now understand how evil weasel he is. England would be a wonderful place except for all the English. No, Stephen, English would be a wonderful place except for all of the government. Oh, it's a joke. Okay, good. Sorry. And I'm not sharing that one, USA Now, but that's funny. There's. What kind of phone did you carry around daily, Viva? I know people, they're terrible phones. It's the iPhone. But this is, oh, geez, I just create my emoji. You get force of habit. I've never gotten the one that starts with the Android. And I know that there's a problem to support these things, but if they had a freedom phone, it would be, if they had a phone that was, just ethically sourced, I would be one of the people who would pay more for a phone that's not made in frickin' China. And that's just, yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, I bought hot sauce. It was made in frickin' China. I mean, I got it. I should have known better than by getting it at Target. Never buying hot. But anyways, that's it. Oh, you need to know that. I need to know the size of the phone. 1 terabyte, if that's what you meant. I went all out. I got the iPhone 15 Pro Max, 1 terabyte, whatever. It's amazing. It's like production, data, research. It's the all-in-one tool. It just unfortunately is made by a shitty company that exploits people, but they're all bad. It's just like, okay. What time is it? Oh, shoot balls. I gotta go. Hold on. Looks like there's a good one here. Arguing with a woman is like reading the software license agreement. In the end, you have to ignore everything and click I agree. Damn, these are good. Where is this USA Now? No, this is See the Veil. Oh no, that was USA Now writing it. Okay, USA Now, last one. Democrats were sent by God. Why was he out of locust? Okay, we shall end. Oh yeah, the iPhone 15. Thank you, says SB Farmer. Set aside the evilness of the company. The slow-mo is just amazing. Like the slow-mo, the camera and the storage is the only thing I get a phone for. Look at this. You got a nice cinematic. But whatever, slow-mo. Every time I hear slow-mo, I hear shlomo. Look how it's just. No, I'm not recording. Anyway, so that's it. And we were fishing at Loxahatchee the other day, and I lost a reel to the rod. Now the spool part, I thought my phone fell in the water. Whew. Someone heard me swear. Schools are designed for little girls, not rambunctious little boys, says Bill Brown. They're built for I don't know. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Sam Sorbo coming on Tuesday, so it's gonna be fantastic. All right, locals. On that note, I'm gonna go get coffee, iced coffee, maybe an energy drink. I know there's a crappy energy drink with sucralose in the fridge. This is how neurotic I am. I don't want the sucralose, but I don't want to waste the $2.20 on the drink. And I know that I'm gonna. So what do I do? The nice Hawaiian 180 milligrams of coffee with sweet cane sugar, 70 calories. Or a disgusting sucralose thing that I'm going to drink at some point in the near future anyhow. They want little boys to be little girls, says Encryptus. All right, we're going to end it. Thank you all for being here. I will be fishing this afternoon, hopefully. Maybe go for a bike ride. Tomorrow, love you, David. Have a great day, says Pam Walker. Thank you very much. And I will see all of you. I'll see all of you tomorrow. I like the format. It's working perfectly. And haven't missed a day yet under the new schedule. So next week's going to be good. What am I doing next week? Yeah, I'm doing good stuff. Okay. I'll leave the chat open, everybody. I don't know. Can I? I'll leave the chat open. I'll see if I can. And otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow and this afternoon and on Locals. Godspeed. God bless. Enjoy the afternoon, people. Peace.